In this video, I'm going to be covering a very important topic, which is self-care for creatives. Now, self-care is something that altogether is very important to anybody that works, or maybe even if you don't work, literally important to every single human being on the planet, but especially for creatives, because when you're a creative, the work that you do involves a lot of brain energy. A lot of people think it's like the other way around, people that are carrying physical stuff and walking up and down. Yeah, that's important, but believe me, as a creative, the fact that you are constantly having to utilize your brain to create something is still a lot of energy that you have to put out. It's still a lot of energy that you have to sum up every single day just to do the work that you do. So self-care is very, very important for you. First of all, what is self-care? If you have been thinking or you've been hearing about self-care, self-care is simply the ability or the different practices involved in taking care of your mental and physical states. Right? So it involves both. A lot of times I think we talk about mental state a lot, we don't talk about physical state a lot. The physical state is very important as well. So do not remove that part if you are thinking about self-care. Self-care involves both physical and mental. So when you're thinking about self-care, all you need to be thinking about is, how am I taking care of my mental well-being? How am I taking care of my physical well-being? So that's basically what self-care is. Now, coming to why is self-care important? I think that we have spoken about self-care in a previous video, but not as much. But why is it important? To me, when I think about self-care, it's simply important because when you don't practice self-care, it can lead to such a terrible state. It can lead to things like burnout. It can lead to things like depression. It can lead to overwhelm. It can lead to physical or mental fatigue. It can lead to strain. It can lead to you just being terrible at whatever it is that you do, being bad at your job. That means that your productivity is reduced. Your general humanity just feels absolutely terrible. So this is why you need to be thinking about self-care. This is why you need to be practicing self-care. Because when we don't, it's literally just like we're neglecting our body, we're neglecting our mental states. And when you neglect your body, you know what happens? It turns on you. It's not like it turns on you, but it begins to show you signs that it needs to be loved. It needs you to treat it well. And just the same way you like to eat good foods, you like to make sure that whatever is going into your body is something that is absolutely wonderful. That's the same way that you need to take care of your mental state. Now, coming to the different ways that you can practice self-care. This is very tricky, and I'll be honest with you, because it's very much dependent on the individual. When I think about self-care practices in general, what may work for one person may not work for another person. And this is all because, we're different, we're wired differently. The way that we operate is different. The kind of personalities, we have different personalities, right? So what may work for one person may not work for another person, but yet, I want to share a couple of tips, a couple of examples when it comes to what you can do to better, let me say, just improve your overall mental state and improve your overall mental and physical well-being. The very first thing, creatives need to sleep. I think I have said this at least 10 times this month, but it is so true. And every time I say it, someone reaches out to me and is like, yeah, that's true. Like, I don't know the last time I had a good night's rest. Creatives need to sleep. You need to sleep. When was the last time, ask yourself, when was the last time you had like a really good night's rest? I recently did like a master's degree, and my thesis was something around this, hypertension and all those like crazy illnesses that come as a factor of, not taking care of your mental well-being and your physical well-being. And sleep was a very, very important factor. It will shock you to know that the amount of sleep you get at night can actually affect your physical state. Like your physical state, the amount of sleep that you get at night can actually affect how you kind of develop physically, right? So the very first thing is to ask yourself, how do you sleep at night? Do you even sleep? The next thing is to ask yourself, do you set boundaries in your work? Now, boundaries, this country, when I think about these boundaries, it's very strange because I know that Nigeria, we don't, a lot of us live with either parents, you have family, you have friends around, and it always seems like it's very difficult to explain to people, especially if you're creative, I am working. Have you seen that reel where it was like, I promise you I'm working, and it was like, what are you doing? I promise you I'm working. That is the state of things. You need to be able to set clear boundaries because we have bought into this lie of multitasking, like I can be in my, you know, house states and work states and doing all these different things and feeling like I'm this awesome multitasker, switching between stuff. You need to set boundaries and you need to learn to focus. You need to be able to hyper focus. Do not multitask. It is not the healthiest thing to multitask, even if you know how to do it effectively. It is not it's not really healthy for your mental state and even for your physical state. Learn to focus on one thing, even if you're the kind of person that gets easily distracted. Give yourself, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, focus on one thing, get that one thing done before moving to another thing. Even if you can't finish that one thing, at least do it for, do it to a certain degree before you move to the next, so that it's not just like you're just moving every 5 minutes, going to this, going to this, going to this, going to this, going to this. Next thing that you can do for yourself is to get up and get physical, move around. If you're not the kind of person that likes like physical exercise, maybe do yoga, maybe just take a walk in the morning, but you need to get physical. And the reason for this is because creatives a lot of times are mostly sitting down, right? So a lot of times it's like you're sitting down. You need to get physical, you need to walk around, you need to go and see, even if it's just like, okay, what's going on in Nigeria today, that's probably something to do. Read a book. Like I said, these things differ on the different people. On a final note, the most important thing when it comes to self-care is understanding your unique personality, is understanding what works for you and doing that one thing that works for you. Let me know in the comments if you found this helpful and what you'd like me to speak on next. Bye.